Ladies and gentlemen, please would you stand for the Governor of Victoria, Professor David de Kretser, accompanied by Mrs. de Kretser and the official party.
It truly is a great pleasure for Jan and myself to welcome you here to Government House this evening for this very special occasion to mark the 40th anniversary of World One Day Cricket International Cricket matches.
The first ODI happened by accident. The scheduled Melbourne January Test match of the 1970-71 Ashes series was washed out without a ball being bowled. When the test was abandoned, Sir Donald Bradman appealed to the players of both sides to stage a one-day match of 48 ball overs to offer the Melbourne public some consolation. Nobody realised then that the novel international game, now recognised as the world's first official one-day international, was going to give birth to a revolution that has helped make cricket a major world sport.
England batted first on the 5th of January 1971. They made 190 and 39 overs and 4 balls of 8 ball overs. John Edrich made 82 and 119 balls. There were 3 wickets for Ashley Mallett and Keith Stackpole, 2 for Graham Mackenzie and 1 for Alan Thompson. And then the Australians replied with 191 for 5 in 34 overs and 6 balls. Chappell with 60 and 103 balls and 41 from Doug Walters. Railingworth picked up 3 wickets. So the spinners had a good game. I don't know why England weren't any better at it and were well beaten by Australia. We might find out from the 2 gentlemen I'm going to ask first to the stage. The man who has number 1 on his one-day shirt and took the first catch in one-day cricket, the voice of summer, at least one of them, Bill Lawry. And with him, the man who opened with Geoffrey Boycott, all the way from England, John Edrich. Bill, you took the first catch, better still it was Boycott.
Yes, Boycott caught Lawry bowled Thompson for I think 8, something like that. It was the only success I had in the whole summer actually. It was fascinating really. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that 4 days were washed out. Illingworth won the toss and elected to bat, and 3 times the umpires went out on the field and Stacky and I were there with their knees knocking. When they finally called the game off, we were absolutely delighted. But when the game started the next day, there was no tickets sold, of course, and 44,000 fans turned up, which was just a beautiful day like today. We didn't have a clue what was going on, John, but we had a good time. We chased 190 down, 40 overs, wasn't a bad effort.
When you say you didn't have a clue what was going on, what did you think of the idea of playing? I mean, Boycott was always quoted as saying it was a daft idea. What did you blokes reckon?
Well, I suppose he would say that, wouldn't he? But no, it was just something that came out of the blue because it rained, as Bill said, for 3 or 4 days and no test match. And they decided to have a 40 over a game, and we just said, well, we don't want to play a 40 over match. This was the England side. But, you know, we played it, and I don't think then any of us thought, you know, how the game was going to progress to what it is today. And if you see some of the film, we had the old field placings, didn't we? It was just played the same way as a test match, wasn't it?
Exactly the same, and didn't mean much at the time to me either, but we won, and when you lose the series 2-0 at the end of the summer, it's a great moment.
My suspicion is that Australia's real interest developed with the 1975 World Cup when they were part of one of the great finals. So let's introduce our next guest to the stage, one of Australia's all-time greats, Greg Chappell. Greg, good to see you.
Mark, thank you.
1975, so you go to England for a World Cup, you have a famous semi-final, Gary Gilmore's match in many ways, and then on to the final against the West Indies, and that, I think, is when, internationally at least, one-day cricket dawned on the world.
Yeah, I think so. Up until that stage, as the boys have said, it probably was treated very much the same as Test match cricket. Even in the World Cup final, a lot of the field placings were very much Test match cricket sort of field placings. Mind you, it was conditions where the bowlers had a bit of joy on that day. I remember it as being probably the longest day of cricket I've ever been involved in. We arrived at the ground early in the morning and finished about 9 o'clock at night before lights were ever even thought of. The light was still pretty good at that time of the day. Unfortunately, we came second. But other than that, it was a fabulous, I think it was just a fabulous day for cricket. The crowd was huge, a lot of West Indians in the crowd, obviously, with the West Indies playing in the final and winning the final. All
right, so a benchmark had been set, the white ball was flying, and suddenly this became a global phenomena, and new age cricketers emerged. And one of them is with us tonight. He's the present Australian captain. He wasn't born, ladies and gentlemen, not born when that match was played in January 1971, but he's recently been voted into the greatest one-day team of all. That's from all over the world in all the ages. Ricky Ponting. Well, interesting stuff. Very different game back then. When did you first remember watching one-day cricket and becoming attracted to it? How young were you?
It's a good question. I'm not actually sure, but as far back as I can ever remember was where I was interested in the game of cricket, whether it be through television or books. I used to get cricket books every Christmas, the hard covered ones with the glossy photos of these guys in them. So my love for the game goes back as long as I can remember watching the television.
We've had 4 wonderful cricketers who were part of one-day cricket over this amazing 40 years. 94 years before that match, Test cricket began, also at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So it's Melbourne that has staged the beginning of Test match cricket and the beginning of one-day cricket. To John Edrich, who's come 12,000 miles, to Bill Lawry, to Ricky Ponting and to Greg Chappell, thank you for being here.